Over many years ago, on a Friday afternoon, the world witnessed the greatest act of love and sacrifice. The Son of God, Jesus Christ, was crucified for the sins of the world. But what really happened on that day? And why is it called Good Friday? Long before Jesus walked the earth, the prophet Isaiah foretold his suffering. Isaiah 53:5 says, "But he was wounded for our transgressions, he was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement for our peace was upon him, and by his stripes we are healed." Jesus' death was not an accident. It was part of God's divine plan to redeem humanity. On the night before his death, Jesus gathered with his disciples for one final meal. He knew what was coming, yet he still chose love. Matthew 26:28. Jesus took bread, blessed and broke it, and gave it to the disciples and said, "Take, eat. This is my body." Then he took the cup and gave thanks, and gave it to them, saying, "Drink from it, all of you, for this is my blood of the new covenant, which is shed for many for the remission of sins." Jesus was showing them that his body would be broken and his blood would be shed for the sins of the world. This was the beginning of a new covenant, a promise of salvation through him. In the Garden of Gethsemane, Jesus prayed in agony. Matthew 26:39 tells us he went a little farther and fell on his face and prayed, saying, "O my Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as you will." Jesus knew what was coming. He prayed in deep sorrow, but he was willing to obey the Father's will. Then came the betrayal. Judas, one of his own disciples, betrayed him with a kiss. Luke 22:47-48. "And while he was still speaking, behold, a multitude, and he who was called Judas, one of the 12, went before them and drew near to Jesus to kiss him. But Jesus said to him, 'Judas, are you betraying the Son of Man with a kiss?'" Jesus was taken by the authorities to face a night of trials and suffering. Though Pilate found no fault in Jesus, the crowd demanded his crucifixion. He was beaten, mocked, and humiliated. Matthew 27:22-23. Pilate said to them, "What then shall I do with Jesus who is called Christ?" They all said to him, "Let him be crucified." Then the governor said, "Why, what evil has he done?" But they cried out all the more, saying, "Let him be crucified." Jesus, the King of Kings, was treated like a criminal. He suffered for us. Jesus, too weak from the beating, struggled to carry his cross to Golgotha, the place of the skull. Nails were driven into his hands and feet. As he hung on the cross, he spoke words of love, even to those who crucified him. Luke 23:34. Then Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they do." Even in his suffering, Jesus showed mercy. Then Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they do." Darkness covered the land, and the temple veil tore. Matthew 27:46. And about the 9th hour, Jesus cried out with a loud voice, saying, "Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani?" That is, my God, why have you forsaken me?" And Jesus cried out again with a loud voice and yielded up his spirit. He said, "It is finished." And bowing his head, he gave up his spirit. Jesus' final words declared victory over sin. The price for sin was paid in full. But why is this dark day called Good Friday? Because through Jesus' sacrifice, we are given hope. Romans 5:8. But God demonstrates his own love toward us in that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. Jesus took our place. His death opened the way for salvation. John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish but have everlasting life. Good Friday is not the end of the story. 3 days later, Jesus rose from the dead, and because he lives, we have hope for eternity. The question is, will you accept his gift of salvation? Jesus died for you. Today you can turn to him and receive his grace. Romans 10:9. That if you confess with your mouth the Lord Jesus and believe in your heart that God has raised him from the dead, you will be saved. Will you follow him? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful Bible teachings.